Come to understand that. Now, get this. Now, we're not the ones splicing genes. And we're not the ones that's fiddling around with DNA in an effort to reconstruct a person. They are. So when you got the individuals who are psychologically imbalanced doing it, then you're just going to have a further fallout, because now what has happened is with them dealing with it and with them concocting things and putting us under certain tests. If you look at us, I can't do anything but cry, because when something I was thinking on the other day, when you look at us in the 60s, and we always go back there because that seems to be the time since our imprisonment that we seem to have this surge forward in an effort to free ourselves that was historical in the sense that it gains international attention. I'm not suggesting it's the first time. But that being the case, we were aware of more than what we are aware of now, and we still had a huge loss of life. Now imagine what the loss of life is going to be when you have individuals who are now delusional as it relates to where we are, simply because individuals who are psychotic have been tampering with our minds. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything, just putting the mind on the upper tier of the hierarchy of what composites us as beings, so that you know, in the dealing with our DNA, in the scrambling of our DNA, you understand, in the putting certain elements or chemicals in the food, in the water, this, that, and the other, will scramble us. Also, that they can manipulate the mind. Because even on the plantation eating pig guts, we still, was moving forward, still was understanding where we were and who the enemy was and how we had to, what we had to do to survive. On pig guts, we had that understanding. Now with steak and whole foods, we don't seem to be that keen. You understand what I'm saying? So there must be something on a higher tier that them scrambling us in these other areas that affects overall, is what I'm saying. And I'm saying the mind is that last thing, is the highest of that which composites us. And that, so to descramble us on these lower levels allows them to manipulate on that higher tier. Because it's amazing, because on one hand, individuals will argue, right, that we are more progressed. We have more these type of successful persons, and we are able to live in communities where we weren't able to before. And again, what I've come to determine is that, well, now what has happened is we've circumscribed our perspective of what whole being, wellness, and success is, in accordance and alignment to the construct that they've created, in which they are the masters, in which they are the intelligentsia, so forth and so on. And all of that is a farce. But the point is that we are in that bubble, and we share that delusion with them. And so now, what will it take to bring us out of that? I think we'll have to deal with the issue of identity, but we'll have to deal with the issue of identity on another level, simply because there's the issue of identity of, am I black, am I American? That's been inundated and watered down and just totally messed up. So I think you're still going to have to go back to identity, because you're going to still have to deal with who really are you, because this caricature that you've been shaped into in part by your own participation is not a real character, because it was shaped, you were shaped into it after you were denationalized and imprisoned and made less than human. So now you've been technically taken out of the human scope. So whatever personality you have at this point in time, it's not even human. And that's why the dynamics of the experience is so dire. Because there's a part of your mind that remembers you're supposed to be human. You're supposed to be able to experience reality in a particular way. And you're supposed to have a particular level of control or say in that. And you don't. And the only ones that really don't are animals. especially animals that come to live amongst human beings, because human beings strip from animals all of their rights, all of them, under the auspice that they're caretakers. And just because they put a little in a bowl, you understand what I'm saying, and take them out to shit every once in a while, they act like they're really doing the animal a favor. Whereas out on their own, they eat what they want to eat, shit when they want to shit, and where they want to shit without getting beat. You understand? So that's what has happened with us. I'm saying that if we look at it, if we look at how human beings treat animals, we will really see how in this construct where we're under the impression that we are existing, that we have been relegated to a sub-existing level similar to that of an animal or a beast. So they made us, they told us what their story was. When they told us who they were and they told us who we were, that was them telling us their story. Now, what they have done is work very hard to construct this reality to reflect their story. So the only thing they're going to allow us to be in their story is that which they wrote us into being and got us participating in it, not understanding the role that they have confined us to. And that's why every community you go to, you see the same dynamics. Because you got that same character that you're playing because they're the ones that's writing it and that's the role that they've written for you. And that's why they're always dominating, because that's the role that they've written for themselves. And if they allow you something here and there, that's just them illustrating supposedly their humanity to the point that they can raise an ape up to the point that the ape can write. And they go, isn't that phenomenal? What they're really saying is, aren't I phenomenal to the extent that I've been able to teach an ape how to do something that a human being is supposed to be the only one that has the ability to do? If it stays in our mind that you're dealing with a narcissist, then you understand everything that narcissist does is to highlight the pseudo superiority of him or her. Never for the individuals in which they're engaging with. Never. It doesn't matter what it is. If they give you a rubber leg, that's only to say how great they are and intelligent they are to create the apparatus and then bequeath it to you. It's needed. It's needed. Too often individuals are engaged in the other, because what is happening? To allow that spirit to have its say, thereafter, it's got to apply that. So therefore, it's going to move you in the direction and into position where that can be applied and proven. That's how pyramids get built. Pyramids didn't get built because individuals sitting around talking mathematics, or running to the Greeks and asking them what's an angle. And so when you have us full speed ahead today, supposedly aware of history, and that means or insinuates we know who we are, we know who they are, and we're asking them how to build a pyramid. And we're sitting around just talking mathematics. And I'm like, that doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right that that's all we're doing, that's how we're still approaching it. We're still asking them what the answer is. So then we cannot be aware of who we are. We cannot actually know what's going on, and that's our behavior. It doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. So what does that mean? Here, I think what I'm asking that we begin to engage in is when we say that we are resilient, and I am not arguing that we are not. What does that mean? Because everything has application to the point that you can confirm this is what it indeed is. So how does resilience act? What would resilience be doing at this moment in time? recognizing that we are in a particular situation where there is a particular onslaught on what would resilience, right, what would resilience response be? See, it's not enough for me to say, hey, I'm kin to Harriet Tubman. Okay, what would Harriet Tubman be doing at this given moment in time? See, it's not enough to say that's the point. That's the point. It That's the point. That's when you say that you know your history, when you say you know something, technically what you're actually saying is I'm doing that. Because you only can know what it is that you do. Or else you've heard it. You are aware of it. Which means someone mentioned it or you read it, but you're not necessarily doing it. I'm saying that it's got to come back to whereas we're literally analyzing the very words and the concepts that we're using simply because I'm still convinced we're using them unawarely as it relates to their impact, their effect, and how it is that we're supposed to be using them. When I say I know something, I must be saying it to push myself to do it, to remind myself to get up and do it. I cannot be saying that I know it just to impress someone about some facts that I've come across. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I can't believe that we know, like the group, the masses of suggest that we do. I will go as far as to say I don't think we know what we're up against. I don't think we know what we're in. I don't think we know what our past is about. I don't think we do. I don't think we do. Yeah, of course we are. Yeah, yeah. You know, I came across a bit where there was a Caucasian woman who they were celebrating because supposedly she's broken the question around how to identify every aspect of the genome. Whereas now, according to her so-called work, you could literally come in and talk about what child you want, including their character. That's how far they've broken it down. They've gotten past. That's what I'm saying. They've gotten past the color of the eyes or the physical attributes. That supposedly now they've been able to understand what makes one think the way one thinks, feel the way one feels, and so now you can come in and get not just a physical baby developed based upon playing with the genes, but that you can develop that child's character as well. Do you understand that? That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying that because we have been slow to analyze things, somehow we have been slowed down to the point that we're behind their discoveries. We're behind really what our situation is. You can say we were afraid in the 60s, but the moment we start swinging, fear went out the window. Now, if we're failing to move forward, it's for another reason that we are not, and we should not be saying that it's because we are afraid per se. It's got to be something a little more extensive than that, because in the 60s, you move past fear. Fear isn't something that naturally, necessarily causes you to freeze. Fear causes you to react, too. And so the question becomes, how is fear causing us to react? And I'm saying that we've gotten to the point now, whereas I don't think we're feeling the pressure. The 60s, we were feeling the pressure. On the plantation, we were feeling the pressure. We're no longer feeling the pressure. I think that's because we deteriorated to a point where I don't know how much of our indigenous Africanness resides in us. Because that's what they've been that's what they've been messing with. You understand? And for us, see, and remember, you know, Oriental teachings that would be considered spirituality will always say to us, never ever be so arrogant that we would take the supposition that just because we have been righteous in comparison to those who have been unrighteous, that we would survive. And I think sometimes we look at so much of what they do that inadvertently and unconsciously we start to feel self-righteous to the point that we do nothing. And we definitely don't analyze our behavior in the sense that we're dealing with, well, what should we be doing? It's not enough to say, well, look at what so-and-so is doing and I'm not doing that. And because they're doing that and they're unrighteous and I'm not, I'm righteous. No, there's something in addition to not doing that you're supposed to be doing. Are you doing that? Because that's what would make you righteous. That's what I'm saying. Because there would have to be some movement. It cannot be that they're moving forward, still about destroying, but now they've got it on a grand scale where we have to really just say, wow. Now, how is it that we have not moved? Suggest then the fact that you continue forward, although those are the questions that are asked, that then at least a reasonable amount of individuals continue to move forward when they are asked asinine questions as such as well. All I'm asking us to do is move beyond the pseudo position of being comfortable that things will work out just because right is right and wrong is wrong. Right is right, wrong is wrong, but an earthquake can come and tear everything down, whether it was built right or not. You understand what I'm saying? Is that what bothers me is our non-movement in any direction. And that to me signifies a serious problem. Because that's like it worries me that it's almost like if you can fathom what the individuals who classified themselves as Jews, what their situation must have been before they was just rounded up and placed on trains. How they just went their day to day, although there were some individuals communicating to them what it is that Hitler was intended. Their thing was, oh no, those are just the individuals who are not adding to the economy that he's concerned about. And so I think that's like the us here. We know that there's an attack on the young people, and unfortunately, there appears to be a pseudo comfortability with that, because individuals have made up in their mind that's not them. They're not young. They're not on the street with their pants sagging, so that must not be them that's going to be profiled. And so you can find that now this has happened in history where people have taken that disposition, and they will find that just with the individuals whose pants were sagging, they were put on the train and in the oven and in concentration camps all the same. That's my concern, because history is repetitive. And you can find individuals doing things as they have done them before. So when you find this preoccupation with genetics here, that's the continuation of where Hitler was. The scientists came out of Germany. So for them to be where they are now, America wasn't on this. America wasn't on this. America didn't get on this level of genetics until, again, like you stated, after that war, and you had the Germans come over here, the Russian scientists and the German scientists brought here. And then it took American racism to another level, because it began to be fought not just emotionally, psychologically, it began to be fought genetically. Absolutely. And that's my concern. So then if they made that leap, then we should have made that leap. Because if we're in a battle, simply because you insist on fighting us, what's our leap? That's all I'm asking. What's our leap? And I don't see where we've made a leap, because our analysis still are old as it relates to, most of them are analysis that Caucasians have given to us. Case in point, the argument that women are the reason why black males have no job, that black women are the ones who derailed the movement. Really? We can point to the report that came out of. and we can point to who commissioned him to research it, and we understand what their disposition was towards black people. So how is it that you're taking anything out of that and legitimizing it and using it to reconstruct your family and how it is that you approach liberation? And yet and still we have done it and continue to do it, masked under Afrocentricity. I'm concerned. I'm concerned because I think we took a wrong turn. And we didn't just take a wrong turn with the idea that we could be integrated with these beings. We took the wrong turn because now you have individuals, like you stated, individuals are no longer on Afrocentricity. No, they've moved past this dimension altogether. And individuals are on a whole nother level where they're talking about hyperdimensionality and just another space and world that you can go into, that you need to go into. And they do not realize that that is a form of escapism that's beyond escapism, beyond the idea of integration. So integration, you thought you were just going to melt with. That didn't work. So now your idea is let's just get beyond it altogether and be on a whole nother dimension. You don't understand, that's just you continuing in that delusion, trying to run because that's how you're responding to fear. And that's what I mean when I say we do not analyze anymore. We don't analyze, or else we would be saying, but it's like you said, there's a generation that's getting caught up in that. And that's that generation that was introduced to Afrocentricity. It was that generation that was born once they were taking the Black Panthers out. So then when you look at how that's an emotional response to what physically occurred. And I'm saying that that's very dangerous because that's the wiping out of 2 to 3 generations. You know, ideas are dangerous, more so than a gun. This is the beautiful part of what you were just saying because it's so relevant to where we are now, including pointing to where we must begin because it's really where we left off. When they began to assault the communities in Chicago, like you stated in the 90s, they were removing heads of, I'm calling them states. They call them gangs. I'm calling them states. They were removing Jeff Ford, so forth and so on. And when you do the history of Jeff Ford during the time when they arrested him, he had moved into teaching history. He had moved into talking Moorish science, nationality. That's why they grabbed him up. You know, because you're talking about at a time when the Nation of Islam was coming back. You had a rebirth. See, everyone's under the impression that they're just trying to take one person out. They're not just trying to take one person out. If you look at when they took out our heads of states in the 60s, they took out Malcolm, they took out Evers, they took out King. They didn't take out just one person. They took out the whole heads of states. And then they let the body fall off. And it wasn't just the individuals, like you stated, who were in politics as far as politics in the domain of taking office, so forth and so on. But it was on the lower level as well with what they call street gangs. I call them states because they organize just like those in Congress. You understand? And so I said, well, yeah, if you start looking at who they took out Ford and the leaders because they, at that time, were beginning to get into the history of who we are and was beginning to assume a nationality that was other than Negro or Black. And that's why they pulled their coattails, because again, that ideology has you functioning in a particular way. It requires that you do certain things and claim certain things. You can't claim identity and you're not participating in particular things. You can't say that you're an American and you don't celebrate anything, you don't participate in anything that maintains America, because that's just not how it goes. So if you're going to say that you are an indigenous person, then your energy must be divested in things that maintain indigenous. That's just the way that it is. It's just the way that it is. So when you look at our particular situation, I do think it's that issue of identity. I think we're still struggling with the Dred Scott case. And that's why you have individuals being shot dead and then the individual walk off free. Because Tanny said that you have no right that a white man has to consider. Now, that wasn't overruled. That case wasn't overruled. And that came out of the Supreme Court. So now when you step back and you look at how individuals shoot and just walk off into the freaking sunset, then it's the issue of we're still dealing with that issue there. And then when you look at the 60s when it came up again, and the Black Panthers took the position, but they were dismantled before they had an opportunity to put forth a solid argument and put it to the table again that what we're dealing with is the Dred Scott case, which also asks, do you have the right to protect yourself? And what they keep communicating, I won't even say inadvertently, but by the ruling of every case, what they're saying is, no, you don't have the right to protect yourself. Any and everybody else can stand their ground, but you can't stand no ground. And they're saying that you don't have a complaint that they have to hear, because if you bring it to the courtroom, their ruling is almost as if they didn't hear, because they got tapes that shows the corruptness, and they still let the Negroes off free. So that is an issue of law, and so you have to question, how is it that you're asking me to adhere to a law that denies my humanity? Oh, then it must be a law suggesting that you are not human. And we won't deal with it because we are so inundated with these ideas of like, who likes you and who you want to be liked by. And oh, you don't want to dislike anybody else. Well, now that's unrealistic, because there are just people you're not going to like. And there are just people who are not going to like you. But guess what? What you eat don't make them shit, and vice versa. So you will survive that. But what you will not survive is individuals killing you in the street and you going to court about it and the court saying nothing wrong was done. And you be okay with that. You might as well just leave the young out on the street and let them just grab them up and do what they want to do with them, if it's going to be like that. In Chicago, are we to take it to be coincidental that for years in a row, remember, they were on this campaign of turn your guns in, turn your guns in, you're going to get this in return, turn your guns in, turn your guns in. Now all of a sudden they're shooting and killings every day. I think I heard the other day it was 10 in over a weekend. So that's they ask you to disarm yourself, and black people turn guns in. So are we to believe that black people have so many guns that they turn all these guns in and they still have guns left to be shooting and killing each other up now? Are we to be under that impression? How are they getting the guns? Because you don't let them buy it like that? Because if they had it like that, that means they are registered, which means they do not have them illegally. And if they are illegal, where are they coming from? And how are you competent as a police force and you don't know that, or you can't intervene that? You can go all the way over around the world and kill heads of states. But people in your backyard that's received none of your militaristic training can hide from you, can sell and you not know? Okay, then all you need to be fired and someone else, they need to be hired and be the police force since they're that keen and you're not. That's bullshit. And I understand the necessity of derailing us and separating us from our concepts and practices of spirituality, because it's the spirituality that's going to hold you together. It's your